Teresa from Divine Frequency reporting to you live from the inner earth. It is amazing down here. They actually let me have the internet. First of all, I just want to say, I'm going to give a little bit of a disclaimer here. If you're here to hear any trash talking or blind endorsements of Cobra, that's not what you're going to get here. We are sticking to my experience. I'm going to tell you my experience and my perspective on what we've got going on. What's up, Houston? That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself, a little bit of a background on me. My family was stationed in England during the time of the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident. This happened in 1980, so this was before I was born, but I was born into this environment where I come from a military background, and we're always looking at the deeper aspects of secret governmental programs, all this kind of stuff. It's been a part of who I am growing up. When I lived in Virginia, I was there during the time of the Seton Miracles. Our priest was giving a sermon when all the statues of Mary began to cry. This didn't just happen one time, it happened a bunch of times. He's in Time magazine. So growing up, I have always been obsessed with two concepts. Magic is real, miracles happen, magic is real, and that the truth is hidden and needs to be uncovered, needs to be discovered. So what I did was I went into journalism. I was incredibly passionate about looking for the deeper meanings underneath the headlines to see what was actually going on. I graduated from the University of Texas Arlington in 2008, and I went into the tech industry. When I was about 26 years old, I looked around me and I thought, you know what? There's more to life for me. There's more. I want to inspire. I already came from a teaching background, but I wanted to do more. So I quit my job. I sold everything I owned. I moved across the country, and I wrote a book called What is Magic? I started having these incredible spiritual experiences. Now, this has been with me my whole life. I've always had very intense, vivid dreams. I've had some intense downloads. I downloaded piano when I was 18 years old at my cousin's funeral. And that's a story that, that's for another day. But I've had some really weird synchromistic experiences happen to me throughout my life. It got to the point where my friends told me, like, Teresa, you really need to write a book about this stuff because you can't make this stuff up. So I did. I wrote a book about it. I was having out-of-body experiences. I was having contact. And what happened then was I started a channel called Divine Frequency. This happened 2 years ago. When I started Divine Frequency, the intention behind it was so that I could start speaking with people like y'all who have these experiences, who are waking up, who want to get in with community so you can talk about these things that are happening that are higher level, there's a lot going on around here that's like way, way more than what meets the eye. So that's why I started Divine Frequency. Now we're going to fast forward because I know this is all leading up to what just happened in the last week. So I want to go there. Last year, I started having really intense extraterrestrial contact experiences. Now, this is like super bizarre to me. I've always been into ETs, I've always been into aliens, all of that. But to actually move into an arena where you're now having contact, I will tell you, it has been the most intense thing to go through. I'm going to try not to get choked up because this has been really hard. It's been hard to go through. And I know a lot of you here have been through this too. A lot of you here are contactees. And anyway, so I've started having contact experiences. After Contact in the Desert last year in 2017, I was visited by blue-gray aliens in a dream. Now I'm going to back up for a second. I have very vivid dreams. I have lucid dreams. I've astral projected. I've taught people how to do it. I've met people on the astral plane. I am usually very conscious of my state of consciousness during dream state. And when this ET experience happened, I was in my bed and it was like there was a fog in my room and I couldn't tell if I was asleep or if I was awake. Now that was disconcerting to me because I usually have a really good handle on if I'm dreaming, if I'm lucid dreaming or not, but I couldn't figure it out. Anyway, what happened next was 5 blue-gray aliens appeared in my room. They took me out of my room. They took me into a white room, which I'm guessing was their ship, and they showed me how to telepathically communicate. There was a silver orb in the center of the room, and we had silver cords from our third eye going up into this orb, and I could hear their thoughts. Now, this went on for some time, and then I was delivered back to my bed. Now, you might say that it was a dream, and that's perfectly fine, but what I'm going to tell you next is going to make you second guess yourself, because it made me second guess myself too. The next day, well, I woke up in the middle of the night wide awake. My circadian rhythms were completely off. After going back to sleep and waking up the next day, I could barely get out of bed. I felt like I had been drugged. I go into the kitchen and I'm making breakfast, and like blood starts running down the back of my right knee. I look, there's like a dot of blood, and now it's pouring down my leg. And I have a dot on the back of my right leg in the middle of a birthmark that is new, that just showed up. So that was weird. The next thing that was weird was that my boyfriend at the time, we both had a shared dream that night about black helicopters. So the same night that I was taken by these ETs, we had a shared dream. The third thing that was some tangible amount of evidence to suggest that this really happened was that I had a family member contact me 2 days later and said that they were visited the last 3 days by an extraterrestrial in their room in a fully conscious state, not even dreaming, fully conscious extraterrestrial contact. And this was one of my family members who was really not into any of this at all and didn't really even know anything about what I was doing at the time because I had just started talking about ETs. And so that was the beginning. That was the beginning for me. And that was last year. That was June of 2017. Since then, I have had an incredible amount of contact experiences, channelings that I was not able to stop. They would come on and I would have to grab a sheet of paper and write down this information. Now, I want to tell you that this contact, this information that I was receiving, a lot of it was encoded where I didn't even know what I was writing down. I didn't understand it after the fact. I had to go and I had to research in depth in order to decode these messages. Now I'm still in the process of decoding a lot of this material, and that is coming. That is coming next. But I want to give you guys this as a preface so that you understand who I am, where I'm coming from, so that all of this now makes sense to you. Because I know that now we're going to shift. We're going to go into the article that I posted. On May 1st, I published an article because I had a dream. I had this intense dream where I walked out of my room and there was a woman at the top of the stairs looking at me as she had just stepped up to the top of the landing as I exited the room. And she was about 5'8" and she was very light. It was like light was exuding from her, and she was so beautiful. And she had this like smile on her face, like she was excited to see me. And I was just completely taken aback because I mean, it's jarring to walk out of your room and see somebody in your space that you don't belong here. Why are you here? You know? And so, but it was like I was seeing somebody that I knew before, but I couldn't remember it. And I could see on her face, she was clearly recognizing me and she was excited to see me. So there was a little bit of a disconnect, almost if you have amnesia and you see somebody who knows you very well and you can pick up on that. Does that make sense? So this is what happened. She told me that the event was happening. She said, you know, what you guys have been talking about for a long time, that's happening now. And I know that we've all had these dreams. How many of you guys have had a dream where the event or the end of the world or some big, huge event was happening? Comment and let me know, because I have heard so many stories recently about people having these dreams about the event. So she tells me that I can go with her to the inner earth. She asks me if I'll go to the inner earth with her. And it really shocked me, because I'm thinking like, what, scrambled egg brain, right? Because when I think about the event, I think about what I need to be doing here on the surface. I think about my friends, my family, you know, we all have our missions, right? And then when she talked about me going to the inner earth and asked me to go to the inner earth, it was like, it was out of left field. I've never even considered going to the inner earth. I don't really research a lot about the inner earth. You know, I'm only one person running my business. I don't have all the time in the world. Inner earth seems cool, but I'm not like super into it. But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, well, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, if this is how I'm supposed to help the event, then maybe I should go. And in a split second, she didn't really give me a whole lot of time to think in the dream. She just asked me. And so I said, yes, I'll go. Right. So she immediately takes my response. She goes down the stairs. I turn around and I go into the room. I'm grabbing my bag. I'm throwing things in my bag. And then I stop. And then all of a sudden, the reality of what I had just said, like, kind of washed up on me, where I'm like, wait a second. What am I doing here? Like, can I even go? Like, what, I can't leave everybody behind. What does this look like? You know? And so my hands are like paused above my suitcase, and I start getting flooded with these insights, and I'm like almost crying because I'm just so upset over having to make this decision. And then I wake up. So I'm awake now. It's May 2nd, and I get out of bed begrudgingly because I'm so tired. I just want to go back to sleep. And then during the day, I was so tired. I was like, you know what? I know I need to integrate. I need to go into a meditative state. I need to go within and really try to figure out how I feel about this, because it was so intense. It was such an intense experience that I was like on edge that whole day. I was like choking back tears. I didn't know why. It was like so, it was just such an experience that was like hard to describe. It threw me off. It was like out of my zone, out of my realm that I usually exist in. So I went into a deep meditative state. And I know that Matt wanted to know, someone that commented yesterday, he wanted to know about the hypnagogic state where you're in between awake and asleep. And I can tell you guys, because it's really interesting, and I teach this when I teach astral projection, but when you go into a meditative state and you focus on your breathing, if you try to remain conscious as you fall asleep, you can actually be conscious when you fall asleep, if that makes sense. And there's a space in between where you start getting flooded with images and insights, and you can hear things, and it's really cool. I encourage you to try it if you have some time that you can spend where you don't have to get up the next morning for work or whatever that looks like. Try to do this where you focus on your breathing as though you're going to be going to sleep, but try to keep your mind awake and aware and conscious. So anyway, I went into my meditative state, and I was actually able to telepathically connect to this woman by using the same tactic that I had learned from the Blue Grays, which was pretty cool. This was the first time I tried this, and I've been talking about this over the last few days, and people have been having some success with it. So that's really cool. But if you focus your energy and attention on your third eye, and then you picture an etheric cord going out and connecting to the mind you're trying to reach, you can actually make connection. It was crazy. It actually worked. I could sense her energy stamp, is the way I would describe it. But I was able to connect to her and have this amazing conversation, which I published. But the reality was, like, I was learning through this communication with her that I wasn't necessarily sure if I was being invited to the inner earth. I was having this insight that it was like almost as though this communication was a platform for me to disseminate the information, not necessarily like I was going to go to the inner earth, or even that would be on the table for me, if that makes sense. So I'm going to step ahead a little bit. I have a little list of the order that I want to go into so that I'm keeping everything organized. Okay, so then I decided to publish this article, which you guys know. So I published an article called I Was Invited to the Inner Earth. I included my dream, and I included the meditation that I had and the contact that I had with her after. And then it was like the internet blew up for me. I was receiving so many emails of people saying that it had such an impact on them that they were like crying and thinking about how important their lives were and how important their families were and how important their mission is. And and it was incredible. I was having such an outpouring of support. Somebody commented, "Thank you, Teresa, for sharing your experience. I was greatly moved, actually to tears, and hope that all is true and we will see the transformation of the human race in this lifetime." So it got an amazing response. It was incredible. Fast forward 2 days. Then we have Cobra publish it. So he's a resistance intel operative, from my understanding, and he publishes an article. Now, I want to preface this with, I don't really know much about Cobra. I knew about him, and I knew a lot of people like followed his work and that he was really into mass meditations and all of that. Now, I didn't really follow him or anything. I knew that he was in the community and doing great work and all this stuff, but like, I'm busy. As you guys know, I'm running my business, and I don't have all the time in the world to sit around and look things up on the internet. Wish I did, but I don't, So, so here I am. And so I read this article. People start sending me this article. "Teresa, your dream is exactly what Cobra's talking about in this article, Firing the Grid." And so I come over here, and I'm going to pull this up for a second. And it says that the Pleiadian fleet is utilizing and conversion to start spiritually and energetically activating certain key members of the surface population in full alignment with their soul free will. And the purpose of the activation needs to remain classified for now. But the part that was interesting to me is that it said, this activation may include visions, lucid dreams, kundalini awakenings, and rapid transformation of belief systems. If you're experiencing such an activation, stay calm and do not act impulsively, especially in your close personal relationships. Now, what this meant to me was like, okay, I had a vivid dream. I had a telepathic communication the next day. And then the end where it says, do not act impulsively, especially in your close personal relationships. Well, that was telling me that I didn't just that, right? Where it was like almost like a decoded message or an encoded message where I shouldn't be actually thinking about leaving my family. I shouldn't be considering that because that wasn't the purpose of it. Does this make sense? Okay, so this is where we're headed. People start making the Cobra connection. I published another article on May 5th highlighting this connection. And at this point, my intention with everything was, well, I'm not actually sure if I was asked. It doesn't seem like I was. It seems like it was just an experience so that I could get the information out. I am a journalist, and that makes sense, and I'm able to make that connection. So there it is. And I didn't want to leave my family. I didn't want to leave behind what I have going here. I didn't want to leave behind my community. That's where I was headed with my thoughts. So then we're going to fast forward 2 more days. The evening of May 9th, it was almost midnight for me when I found out that Cobra had posted an article called Entry Protocols, where he linked to my article and he called out my experience as a prophetic dream. So this is the article Entry Protocols. I'm just going to read a short part of it. It says, in full alignment with the new timeline, certain most awakened members of the surface population may or may not be given an option to leave the surface of the planet and be accepted within the underground resistance movement or other positive Agartha factions. Recent prophetic dream of Teresa Yanaros is a direct result of this awakening sequence and requires a detailed analysis. The dream was taking place in a hypnagogic state, which we just talked about. And the dream, okay, this is the part that's important. The dream was induced as a signal for the surface population to start preparing for the contact with the Agartha network, and actually reveals a large part of Entry Protocols. And he goes on to describe the Entry Protocols, which we're not going to talk about right now. But the dream, the part where he says the dream was induced as a signal for the surface population, I want you to think about that for a second. So think about it from my perspective, and I'm telling you my experience with this whole thing. To me, that meant that it was supposed to be disseminated, not as though I was actually going to be asked to go into the inner earth or that I had been asked to go to the inner earth. I really think that I'm playing a role here where I'm disseminating information, and I want to be very clear about that. So I'm just going to be honest and give my opinion here for a second. When I was reading the article, I was actually crying because it was pretty intense for me. It felt this whole week has been really kind of out of left field for me. It's been kind of difficult to handle all of this because it's kind of like way beyond what I'm already dealing with. Now, as I've mentioned, I've been over the last year of my life having intense extraterrestrial contact experiences, telepathic contact downloads with information that is very specific to technology for the human body and how to evolve and connect to higher states of consciousness. And through that, I wasn't really prepared for this all to happen because I haven't really been publishing a lot of this, and I've been writing this in a book that I'm planning on publishing. But this article, I was invited to the Inner Earth, was the first time that I took a step out, kind of put myself out there in this way, where I published a very emotional article that I wouldn't normally publish. And then it got this response. And then now Cobra's talking about entry protocol. It kind of threw me off. Not to mention, I will say this, this picture, can we talk about this picture for a second, of going down this hole, this ladder? What were y'all's thoughts on this picture? So think about it. go to this and look at this picture, because I'll just tell you from my perspective how this made me feel. Because when I was 7, I think I was 6 or 7 years old, I was taken by a group of bullies and put down a hole that looked almost exactly like this. It was in a sewer, and then they closed the top of the sewer on me, and I was stuck in a dark hole that looked very similar to this. And I had to release myself. I had to climb up in the darkness, and I had to push up the sewer top and get out. It was a traumatic experience for me. So seeing this in an article was kind of like a red flag for me, where I'm like, I don't think I would go down a hole that looks like that. that's just me. I don't know if I could do that. But that was kind of my initial reaction with all of it. So I'm going to keep my thoughts in order here and go to the next point. So, all right, I want to talk for a second about why people would not go to the Inner Earth. So one of my family members actually sent me a message after reading this Cobra article, and I wanted to share this with you because I thought it was pretty funny. He said, if a random person comes up to you and tells you to disappear down a deep, dark hole, leaving all personal belongings behind, please do not go with them. They're going to have to pick you up in a hovering spacecraft. My sister only rides in style. I thought that was amazing. But anyway, to me, it felt a little bit like taking away personal sovereignty, to have to make a decision to go somewhere without having the understanding of what that looked like. Instead, having to make that decision based off of you coming up with a story behind leaving what you already have. Now, to me, that seems a little bit off. I don't know if I could fully make a decision to go to the Inner Earth when I would not know what that looks like. Now, my first initial thought there was that maybe the expansiveness of the truth is so large that through free will, you actually have to agree to do something, like you go to the Inner Earth, before you'd even be able to access that information. So once you make that decision, now all of a sudden you get this huge download of information that changes all the nature of your relationships. So it could be something like that. One thing I did want to talk about, though, is that I spoke with James Gilliland last night. And for those of you who don't know, go to eseti.org. He knows a lot about the Inner Earth. He is a contactee as well. And I was asking him about all of this, and I was asking him specifically about like why people would go and not come back. And he said that a lot of times that people will go and they won't want to come back because they actually find their true soul family there. So if you are being called to go to the Inner Earth, it could be that this is your path. Now, I want to bring this point up. This is the most important point that I'm going to make. Everybody has a choice, okay? Let's say that this is not even real and that this isn't even an option. That's neither here nor there. But let's just assess this for a second and see what we can garner out of this. Let's say that you are given a choice to go to the Inner Earth. You have to choose if that's for you or not. Only you know your true soul mission. Only you know your true soul path. Your correct answer is going to be different than somebody else's correct answer. Okay, so I want you thinking about that for a second. And I believe that this has given me a platform to speak to these issues. And this is my mission. My mission is to speak to these issues and to make sure that we are leaning into discernment and community and evolution of consciousness. So, where are we headed now? So I know that some people have had some issues with this concept of like the top awakened people are going to go to the Inner Earth, or to have contact. But I think that really what this is just saying is that some people are going to be contacted in certain ways, and then some people are going to be activated in other ways. This is just all across the board, different people. Everyone's being activated right now, but people are going to have different activation points. So I'm going to tell you straight up, if I was given the opportunity to go to the Inner Earth, I would not go. I'm going to say that again. If I were given the opportunity to go to the Inner Earth, I would not go. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that for me, this has highlighted a test, right? It's a test. Even though it's not even like I haven't been approached, it gives me the platform to consider this. It's a test to see how serious I am about my mission. And I will tell you right now, I am dead serious about my mission. And my mission is with my feet on this planet. My mission is on the surface. I am not leaving you guys. That's never going to happen, because I am doing what I'm here to do. I have activated, and I believe that this particular experience over the last week for all of us has given us all an avenue. I'm going to bounce this right back to you right now. Has given you an avenue to think about your soul mission, your soul purpose. I've received dozens of emails talking about people crying, talking about this with their family. What would I do? How could I go? Yet some people are like, I would drop everything in an instant and go. That is for you to decide. Your decision is for you to decide. And there it is. We have such important missions on this planet. And right now, it's so important that you figure out what that mission is and you do that mission. I posted on Facebook last night asking people to share their passions with me. It has over 200 comments of people telling me what they do in their lives that changes the world. And it's incredible. This has created a beautiful conversation for people to step up and go, you know what? No, I'm not leaving the earth. I'm not leaving the surface. I'm not going to go to the inner earth, because this is what I want to do with my life. And it's going to make people catalyze their consciousness and move forward and do that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is a quote that says, the dream was induced as a signal for the surface populations to begin preparing for contact. I want to talk about that for a second. What does it mean to prepare for contact? What does it mean to you? Everybody think about that for a second and comment. What does it mean to prepare for contact? Now I'm going to give you guys, as you're writing this, I'm going to tell you what I think. I think that preparation for contact looks like inner work and shadow integration, because that's what everyone should be doing anyway for soul development. Okay. If it means that you get contact, that's a byproduct. Okay. Don't get caught up in sitting around waiting for contact. This, I do a video about this on my YouTube channel where it's like, come on, people, we don't need to be focusing so much on what you don't have, what you're without. You need to be focusing on what you do have and what you can do with what you have. That is the clear message here. That is like so what I'm getting out of this for sure. Okay, so I want to shift again, and I want to talk about the purpose of the dream. Okay, this is where things get really fun, and this is like going to be my favorite part of integrating this whole live stream. Okay, so I spoke with my good friend Matthew Mornian last night. He is a psychic, he is a tarot reader, he is an energy worker, he is a light warrior. He's amazing. Check him out at facebook.com/rememberyourmission. So he gave me a reading last night, and I wanted to read this to you because Matthew does not know the project that I'm working on right now. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about this yet. So I'm sure he's watching the live stream. Shout out to Matthew. And this is really crazy. So listen up. This is what he said last night. Your path, this is a reading he got on the whole situation over the last week. Your path is going to continue to expand through a whole series of events having to do with contact, activations, the ongoing form of an intuitive work that you might even be doing yourself on a greater level in the coming years. There seems to be a frequency that's activating within you that's going to allow for a level of channeling, not in the traditional sort of trance channeling over YouTube, but almost in a different way in which you're going to be disseminating certain pieces of information that are going to be given to you by a whole host of different beings. It looks like the contact experience you had with this woman was one of many. It may not represent a literal offer to enter the inner earth, but it does seem to represent a literal offer of contact and ongoing dialogue on some level that's going to propel you into the next stage. Now, this was amazing. He sent me this video last night, and I was basically yelling at my phone, how did you know? How did you know? Because I'm literally working on a project right now that's taking all of my ET contact over the last year, and it's putting it into a presentation so that I can show you guys and demonstrate what I've learned. Because the reality is, you can channel, you can have ET contact, but who cares? What does it mean? What it means is what you can distill and share that will change people's life. catalyze their consciousness. That's my mission. That's what I am here to do. That's who I am. That is Teresa Yanaros at Divine Frequency. That's what I'm bringing to you guys. Okay, so this was a beautiful clarifying statement from Matthew. Thank you so much. And it was just so much confirmation that I am on the right path, and I'm going to continue down this path. Now, I'm going to be speaking at ESETI conference, giving this presentation. I'm working with a few artists right now to depict some of these contact experiences. I'm also going to be speaking about this at Dimensions of Disclosure in August. So you can go to eseti.org to check out ESETI conference, and you can go to dimensionsofdisclosure.com to look at that conference as well. So come see me live. I want to hang out with you guys. So next, I wanted to talk for a second about what James Gilliland told me about my role. He said that there's a potential that these beings are coming through me to reach other people. I believe that. I believe that I am a conduit to disseminate information. I believe, and this is what he was telling me too, is that I'm sensitive to contact, so I'm able to reach the information, and I'm able to get that out and put that out in a way that's easy to understand. Now this goes, think about it. I'm a journalist. I come from this background. It would make perfect sense that this would be the area or the arena that I would go into. So if anything, let this be a case study for you on how somebody, me in this case, has gone through a huge shift in consciousness over, you know, the last 5 years, 6 years, and how as I step into my soul purpose, it has expanded out for me, and I'm able to see much clearer this narrow path that I'm walking. So I'm going to talk for a second about the talk I'm going to be giving, because it's about what I call the etheric battery. I've channeled material that teaches a method for meditation and achieving higher consciousness. I'm going to tell the story about how I got this information, what the information was, and then all of the synchronicities that I've been following on my path so that I can get this information to you guys, because the whole purpose here is collaboration, community, and achieving higher consciousness. We are evolving. We are being activated. Every single person here, sitting here, is activating. We need to do our inner work. That's what it's all about. Stop looking without and start looking within, because when you look within and you start looking that shadow in the face, it's scary and it's not easy. But you know what? When you look at that fear and you integrate, you go, I love that place. I love that part of me. I love that part of me. I feel like I'm supposed to hate. And then you take that in and you love that and you hug that part of you. And then you come out on the other end and you're stronger and you're wiser. And now you can take on more. In the last 2 months of my life, I've gone through a complete dark night of the soul. I just tanked. It's been horrific. It's been hard. It's been horrible. I've been having to face a lot of the trauma that I went through in my divorce and all of this stuff. It just came bubbling right back up. But you know what? I went through that work. I took the time it took to look at that and deal with that and love that part of me and learn to love again. I can tell you that I'm trying not to get choked up. In the last month of my life, I have learned in a huge way how to start loving again, start trusting again, start realizing that there is love out there. I know so much of us have gone through trauma in our lives, and it's time for us to release that trauma. I am here for you. We are here. We're in this together. Start releasing those bonds, guys, because it's going to make you so much more powerful, and we need each other. And this is highlighting this moment where we're coming together now and we're deciding as a community that we're doing this. We're on the surface of the planet. We're not going anywhere. Well, some of us will, and that's great. There will be some people probably that will be activated to go off planet or go on the inner earth, and that's great. That's their path. And something that I'm super passionate about is that we need to respect each other's paths. Stop telling people what they need to do. Stop telling people that their path is wrong and that yours is right, because that's not true. Your path is your path. That's your sacred path. But I want you to remember that other paths are just as sacred as yours. You are no better or worse than anybody else. We're in this together. We need each other, and we need to start speaking to these concepts, okay? Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about today is 1, 2, 3, 4, is this concept of, well, actually 2 more things. Escapism, y'all. This idea of leaving the surface and moving to the inner earth, for some, it is an excuse to fall into the pitfalls of escapism. Okay? Think about that. I implore everyone to take a moment to appreciate everything you have and everything you're worth. because those people who miss you and you would miss, take a moment to cherish those relationships. So you can think, oh, I want to leave my life behind. I would love to go to the inner earth. But you know what? If you're not dealing with your soul development, you're probably not going to be asked to go to the inner earth, if that's even really a thing. Think about that. The people that would be going, it's because it's their soul mission. But don't try to escape from your life. Don't try to escape from your problems. You need to embrace your life and embrace the challenges. They're not problems. Look at them as opportunities. When you start to look at your challenges as opportunities for growth, it changes your mind, it changes your life, and it allows you to lean into that shadow work that we've been talking about. So consider that. Next, I want to talk about soul purpose. So this is what we're going to end with. You do have a path. You have a soul mission. You do. And when you follow the synchronicity that shows up in your life, that helps you align with that path even more. And what I mean by synchronicity, it's those sudden insights, those exciting things where you're like, oh my gosh, I heard about this yesterday. This is completely connected to what I thought. And you start seeing numbers that line up, and you start getting responses through text or maybe email that are completely in alignment with an idea that you had, or you get a phone call from someone you've been thinking about. These are all moments of the collective consciousness coming together to show you the way. And you're not on this journey alone. We're in this together. Okay. So I want to say to everybody that I love you guys so, so much. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me at thedivinefrequency@gmail.com. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Divine Frequency, and check me out at thedivinefrequency.com. I hope that you guys are having an amazing day. And remember that this is your experience. This is your life. You are a unique soul. You are a unique blueprint. Nobody else in the entire world has the life that you're living. Nobody else is you. You have to take your life seriously, lean in to your experience, get lost in love with your experience, and love somebody, y'all. I love you guys so much. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if you guys have any questions for me. I'm going to take questions for a sec. Let's see. I've got, I like, somebody just said, stay neutral and observe. Yes, Eric, that's great. Okay. Let me see really quick if we've got any questions. Okay. So somebody asked, aren't people like Teresa more needed on the surface? Why do they want her to go to inner earth instead? Yeah, that's a really great question. And speaking to kind of what I spoke about before, I don't actually think that I am being considered for somebody to go to the inner earth. I think that I was given this dream so that I could be the person to disseminate this information as I'm moving into actualizing who I am. But to speak directly to your question, I think that it's all in the divine order of things. So if there's somebody who is being called on a soul level and being activated to go to the inner earth or whatever, whatever that looks like, we need to respect the divine order and realize that maybe we're not going to understand it all, because we won't. We're finite manifestations of the infinite consciousness. So there are some things that we won't understand. And I would think that it's all in divine order. So if someone's going to leave the planet and you go, man, that sucks, they were really like a great person that we could have used on the surface. Well, you got to also respect that maybe there was something else that there is something else that they're supposed to be doing, is how I would respond to that question. Okay, let's see. I have another question. What can I do to remember my mission? Oh my gosh, this is an amazing question. Thank you, Dawn, for asking this. So what I want you to first ask yourself, Dawn, is what is it that you do that time completely goes away and you're like completely in your flow state, you forget where you are, and you're just fully immersed in what it is that you're doing. That right there is what I call your bliss, okay? Following your bliss is key. That right there is your soul shining through. That is what you need to do. Okay. So I want you to do a little bit of meditating over the next couple of days. And I want you to find that bliss. And I want you to put yourself in that bliss state. I want you to go access that bliss state. Because you know what happens when you access that bliss state is that you start to figure things out. When you access that higher level of being, now all of a sudden things start to make sense to you. And things that you have that are problems, or like blocks, not problems, but blocks in your life, you start to be able to see them and you go, oh, this is a block. I don't need this. This is a, you know, volatile person that I need to get out of my life. Or this is something that I've been like holding myself back from. And you start to actualize that more and more. And what happens when you find that bliss state and you follow it, your purpose and your mission becomes more and more refined. Okay. So do that. Let's see. Someone asked if I have an online class to learn how to do shadow integration and inner work. I do not have an online class, but I do coaching sessions, and I am planning on doing online classes. But if you go to my website, thedivinefrequency.com, you can definitely take a look. I'd love to have a one-on-one session with you for sure. Let's see. Somebody asked, could this possibly be a test by the cabal to remove key people on the surface? Now, this is a really important question, because I think that this is probably the biggest controversy on the internet surrounding this right now. Is this a test because this is actually something really negative? And that's a great question. And you know what? I'll tell you, I ain't the person to answer it, right? We all are having the same question where it's like, you gotta figure this out. You gotta go, okay, well, we have this information from, and this is going to go back to like kind of my journalist side, because I love philosophizing about this kind of stuff. But you receive information from sources, and then you have to assess the credibility of the source. You have to consider all aspects. You have to look at other sources. You have to look at how they're actually presenting evidence for their source. And then you have to make up your own mind. Now, when we're in this metaphysical realm, you know, we're talking about going to the inner earth, right? This is like kind of out there, right? We have to ground. You have to ground in, and you have to go, what makes sense? What makes sense? Well, there are satanic leaders in the world, and there is a negative agenda, in my opinion, based off of my research. And so, yes, there is a possibility or a potential for deceit. And I was raised Catholic, and I feel in my heart that there is a deceiver. And I mean this as an archetype. And we do need to be very aware of giving away our personal sovereignty, because you will be told across the board, and people will try to brainwash you all day long. We know it. I'm preaching to the choir here about taking away your rights. Don't give your rights away. Stand in your personal power and say, no, I am my soul, and I am going to do what I need to do here on this planet to make sure that I am connected to that soul purpose in its divine state, without any kind of negativity kind of thing. So yes, we do need to be very careful. And great question. Thank you for asking. So somebody asked, would you be willing to push for mass meditations between all truth seeker groups? Brad, thank you so much, Brad, for asking this. And absolutely, I would love to do that. I think it's a great idea. And it's interesting. I can speak to this for a second, Brad. I feel like over the last week, I've gained a lot of insight and seen like how the spiritual community is very divided, which has been very kind of enlightening for me, where it's like, aren't we supposed to be like in this together? What's going on? And I'm sure that all of us here are seeing that. I mean, you have your different groups of people that believe different things, but the reality is, transcend that and go, what's the divine truth? What is the larger truth here? And for me, when I connect to my message is personal sovereignty, community, soul work, integration, riding the wave between the known and the mystery along our path to ascension and evolution of consciousness toward oneness back to source. When you connect to that, everything, let all the semantics and drama fall away. Love somebody, you know? But yes, Brad, I'm going to work on that. And I think it's a great idea. And I've been thinking about that. So thank you for asking that question. Let's see. Someone asked, do you think that when the earth shifts, those on the surface may be brought to inner earth temporarily? Yeah, actually, Kara, I do think that she says she always has seen herself as a bridger, helping the surface people integrate with the inner earth beings. So if asked, I would go as long as I could still help everyone on the surface. Yes, Kara. And I think that what this Cobra article has kind of highlighted is this like hard line going, you're either on the surface or you're not, right? And that makes people go, well, wait a second, why are we dealing with this kind of like divide? It feels like a divide, right? Well, what I want to present as an option is that this is just one aspect. Like people that are going to be taken to the inner earth and never come back, maybe that's only like a very small portion of the population, but there's, just because he's speaking to one thing doesn't mean he's like speaking to everything, right? He's over here speaking to this. But then we have this whole huge operation that's going to come online that everybody plays an important role in. So yes, absolutely, Kara, I think you're totally right. Maybe some of us are going to be going in and out. Maybe some of us are going to be going off planet and coming back. Maybe so, you know, it's going to be an enormous operation. So I think that realizing, like, okay, don't get all caught up in this, oh, but I want to go to the inner earth, maybe I won't get to go. That's maybe neither here or there. Like, let's just focus on our mission and keep accessing, like what I was explaining to Dawn earlier, keep accessing your soul mission, refining that in, because what's going to happen is you're going to actualize that more and more. And we do that on a collective level so that all of us are looking around. We're like, I see you, you're being activated. I see you, you're being activated. And I'm seeing it all over the place. And we just need to keep moving forward. We got this, y'all. Okay. So, okay, I have one last question. Bev said, has anyone let you know they've been contacted to go? Honestly, I've been so inundated with emails that's a great question. I'm not exactly sure, but I will tell you that in the last 2 days, I have had family members tell me that they've been contacted, not to go to the inner earth, but received contact in dreams. So very interesting developments. I would say stay tuned probably, because I'm imagining this is probably just the beginning of all of what's going on here. So thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with me. Love and light. Stay vigilant, my friends. All around us are pieces of the gigantic cosmic puzzle. Let's attune to its frequency.